Community CRA Advisory Committee. Can we all begin with the Pledge of Allegiance? Flags to your... I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We'd like to recognize Councilman Jacques Despinos, who is here in the audience. And Frank, are these students that
These are 4 high school students. You might ask one of them to tell you why they're here.
Yes, why are you here? We have 4 high school students from what high school? Okay.
You want to come to the mic, because whatever you say needs to be on the record.
Come up here and
somebody come to the mic. You can come over here
and tell us why you're
and
here.
Be the star. Right, the star that you are.
Your first time on stage.
Hey, you on TV too, live.
Tell us your name.
Smile.
Tell us your name and address. And
my name is Raz Austin. I live in 1000 Quayside Terrace, Unit 703.
Quayside, right?
Yeah, Quayside, yeah.
Okay.
And we're here because Mr. Hoover, our teacher, he said we had to do this, like one of these meetings for a grade, and come and basically, you know, see how you guys get down. So.
Okay. So we decide what grade you get at the end of the meeting according to how you behave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
So behave.
Definitely. All right, guys. Nice to meet you guys.
Nice
Take
to meet
care.
you.
All right.
Thanks for coming.
You want me to turn my mic off?
Well, why don't all of you stand up and give us
What are
your
the
name?
names of your other...
Oh,
Introduce everyone.
that's Bobblehead. No, I'm playing. That's Joy, Stephanie, my brother, and I'm Raz Austin. I mean, my brother, Taj Austin. Yeah.
And the one hiding over there, who is that in the red?
I don't know.
Oh.
I thought he was. That's your son. Okay,
somebody's son.
Yeah. All right. I'll turn it
All
over.
right.
All right, thanks.
Thank you and welcome.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Can we have a motion to approve the minutes of our last month's
You don't have a
meeting?
quorum. So
Yeah, we did.
You do?
One,
have a
two,
quorum?
3, 4, 5. No, you're over one short.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can do that at the end if
can
somebody comes.
we have a discussion item tonight. Dr. Frank Schnidman, would you like to come up and...
Mr. Chairman and members of the board of the Community Redevelopment Agency Advisory Committee. Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board of the Community Redevelopment Agency of North Miami Advisory Committee. The purpose of my being here tonight is to provide a summary status report on the efforts that have been undertaken to amend the community redevelopment plan of the CRA to include new projects and programs and to try to extend the life of the Community Redevelopment Agency. In the agenda packet there was a brief memo, and I'd like to refer to that if each of you have that, because it talks about the history of our efforts to amend the redevelopment plan, and it begins by saying the CRA coordinator contacted Frank Schnidman July 23rd of 2012 to request assistance with the CRA effort to amend the redevelopment plan and extend the life of the CRA. Now, as currently set by interlocal agreement between Miami-Dade County and the City of North Miami, the CRA will sunset. It will terminate October 1, 2016. However, as allowed by state statute, by mutual agreement of the county and the city, the life of the CRA can be extended up until 2045. And at the February CRA board meeting, Steve Zelkwitz actually went through a presentation outlining the process to do that. Now, from July of 2012 until February of 2013, Schnidman, myself, and the CRA staff met numerous times to discuss the issues and options the CRA would face in efforts to amend the redevelopment plan and seek to extend the life of the CRA. I also attended the CRA board meetings, and I made a number of presentations, including presentations before this advisory committee. On February 4th of 2013, after a detailed presentation that I gave to the CRA Advisory Committee, the CRA Advisory Committee recommended that the CRA hire me as a consultant to assist in the review, evaluation of options, and organizing the process for the amendment of the redevelopment plan and related documents, including the effort to extend the authorization for the time to allow the CRA to complete its redevelopment efforts. During this 6-month negotiation period, this period of discussion from July of 2012 to February of 2013, it was agreed that the city and the CRA board would provide the vision and the list of capital projects and projected costs of those projects that I would use to include in the redevelopment plan amendment. Now, following the February 4th CRA Advisory Committee meeting, CRA attorney Steve Zelkowitz prepared 2 resolutions for the February 12th, 2013 board meeting to formalize your recommendation. The first resolution would authorize the CRA executive director to take all steps necessary and appropriate to extend the term of the CRA, including updating the redevelopment plan and the interlocal agreement with Miami-Dade County. The second resolution was to approve a professional services agreement for my being hired. On February 12th, the CRA board meeting met and approved the resolution authorizing the executive director to take all steps necessary and appropriate to extend the term of the CRA. However, the proposed resolution involving the professional services was at the last minute pulled from the agenda. After negotiation to reduce the compensation and the amount of time committed to the project, and the confirmation that the city and the CRA would be providing the quote-unquote vision and the list of capital projects and costs, an agreement was then placed on the agenda for the September 10th, 2013 CRA board meeting and approved. The scope of services of that agreement between the CRA and myself stated, the scope of services contemplated by this agreement includes assisting in the review, evaluation of options, and organizing the process for the amendment of the CRA redevelopment plan and related documents. Incorporated into this work is the effort to extend the authorization for the time to allow the CRA to complete its redevelopment efforts beyond that currently granted by the City of North Miami and Miami-Dade County. In addition, the assignment will include review and inclusion of the corridor planning effort into the proposals for the amendment of the redevelopment plan. The compensation schedule that was included in the approved agreement stated the compensation to be paid by the CRA to consultants shall be a fixed monthly retainer of $5,000 for approximately 25 hours per month for a 7-month period, totaling compensation under the agreement of $35,000. Once the agreement is effective, the CRA coordinator and consultant will work together to prepare a detailed schedule to coordinate the tasks under this agreement with a timeline in conformance with the monthly time commitment. No work in excess of the approximately 25 hours per month is contemplated in order to accomplish the tasks to be outlined in the timetable." End quote. An action plan, the calendar, and a draft of the first section of the redevelopment plan amendment, about 23 pages, were prepared and presented at the November 4th, 2013 Advisory Committee meeting and the November 12th CRA board meetings. At those meetings, the history of the CRA was reviewed and the efforts to update the existing redevelopment plan were discussed. And as you all know, the original plan was adopted June 7th of 2005 and amended October 21st of 2008. It was during these discussions of the action plan and the calendar that updating the vision of the redevelopment effort and the identification of important capital projects and costs were highlighted as key responsibilities of the CRA so that I could incorporate them in the proposed redevelopment plan amendment. I worked diligently in this effort to assist the CRA Advisory Committee, the CRA Board, the CRA staff, and the city staff to get the information needed in order to prepare the required elements of the redevelopment plan amendment. Among the many meetings and presentations was a meeting with County Commissioner Monastine to discuss his support for sponsoring the North Miami effort to amend the redevelopment plan. The Commissioner made it very clear that he would sponsor and support the amendment and bring it to the county but would not do so unless there were actual proposed projects and an estimated cost of those projects included in the proposed redevelopment plan amendment. At the April 2014 CRA Advisory Committee and board meetings, I, at the direction of CRA staff, made a comprehensive presentation of the potential types of projects that have been recently discussed and included a number of graphic examples. The agenda packages, the minutes, and the recordings of the advisory committee and the board meetings during the period of my retention contain significant additional information detailing the efforts that have been made. So in summary, if the CRA is to exist beyond 2016, it must approve a redevelopment plan amendment with the extension of its existence and must get the City Council and the Board of County Commissioners to approve the amendment and to agree to extend the CRA's life. The redevelopment plan amendment must identify the redevelopment projects and programs that will be financed by increment revenues, and those projects and programs should be such that it will take additional years to complete, and therefore an extension is necessary. Though a diligent effort has been made to identify a vision for the redevelopment plan amendment, to date the progress made is that the board would like to have the CRA and city focus its resources on the downtown, and a number of projects in general terms have been suggested. City consultants are currently working with the council to put together a downtown action plan and downtown action plan advisory committee, as well as other consultants working with the city and city staff and council to put together a concept plan for the downtown. The city and the CRA staffs are also meeting at the staff level to serve as a task force focusing on downtown issues. Given this ongoing effort to identify the vision, the major projects and the budget for these projects, CRA staff informed me that the current consulting agreement to assist with the preparation of the redevelopment plan amendment would not be extended beyond April 30th of 2014 at this time, but that once city staff and the board finalize a vision and the list of major projects and costs, I would once again be retained to complete the redevelopment plan amendment effort. So I thank you very much for the time that we have spent together. We will await a vision and a list of projects and budget, which is what the statute requires in order to go to the county. And once that happens, I will, I gather, be invited to come back and assist in the process. Any questions?
Yeah, I have one. So basically what we're going to do, and probably to you and to our CRA coordinator as well, so we're going to have a period of undetermined months in which we're not going to be working with the county on extending the life of the CRA? Is that what?
No, that's not the case at all.
Okay.
We will continue to work. Before I continue speaking, we should acknowledge the presence of our new executive director for the CRA, Mr. Alim Ghani.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, with that, actually, I'm still yet to reach out to the CRA board, which is, you know, the mayor and council,
Right.
to sort of get a gist of what their feelings are on what was just presented. Again, I was just tossed into this, you know, and I'm familiar with what has been going on a little bit with the CRA, and based on directions from the board, then I'll be, you know, moving forward based on their direction. But if Leslie has any information, then he could let us know.
Yes. Mr. Chair, to answer directly to your question, in order for us to go to the county, we need major projects that are costed out. And we will be working closely with Ms. Tanya Wilson-Sejour with the city side, especially with their vision for a new downtown, to identify major projects that the CRA can get involved with and champion to take to the county. So the fact that Mr. Schneidman is not going to be working with us for a couple of days does not mean that the process will stop. We will continue the effort to, especially, we cannot move forward without major projects. That's what justifies our existence. So until we can identify, and Tanya Wilson-Sejour, the manager for the community planning and redevelopment, assured me that within a couple of months, we will have that, the projects and the cost. So we don't expect that Mr. Schneidman will be out of the loop for a very long time. And we expect to go to the county very soon.
Now, who's selecting these major projects, Tanya?
Well, we will, the CRA along with the city will have, wherever CRAs operate and are successful, there is collaboration between the city, the private sectors, and the CRAs. So basically, we're looking for the same formula, to apply the same formula here in our CRA. We have some projects that are in the works, but they're not at the point where we can put them on the table. But we do have some projects on the works. It's not like we are stabbing in the back at this point.
Now, is this sort of coordinated with the Keys and Stars study that's going on?
Exactly. That's why we have to work very closely with Ms. Sejour. She's spearheading this effort.
Okay. All right, any questions from anybody? I think you had a question.
Hi. I'm sorry. I just had a comment, not so much a question. We are in May of 2014, and we're talking about sunsetting in 2016.
2016.
Month in particular, because it...
November?
November.
Yeah, October is the deadline.
Okay. Usually that I'm familiar with something like this, we should have had something, at least identify where we're going, because putting it together and to submit it, it's going to take some time. And I don't know if there is like any urgency, but to me, I think there should be, because we've talked about it. It's about a year now, and I thought by now we could have something. It's not a lot, but at least one major project, which is, I think, with some of you who were on the board back then when we talked about it, where they can say, oh my goodness, this is what the CRA has done. And I think, and sometimes I know, it's not sometimes, many times I'm not politically correct, but people need to start getting out of their own personal, it's not what's in it for me, where does it go. It needs to happen, and it needs to happen for the city, because to me, if we allow the CRA to sunset, and I think all of the work that we've done all of these years, it's like my mom would say, washing your hands and wiping it on the floor. To translate it, well, that's the Creole thing, to translate it literally. So we've got to do something. And we're talking about, I look at it, it's not even 2 years, it's a year and a half. And we meet, advisory board meets once a month, CRA board meets, okay, maybe they'll have 2 meetings a month, but come on.
Are they meeting?
I'll take that as a question. I'd like to respond to that.
Yeah. Okay.
The CRA staff is there to serve at the will of the CRA board. And any major project that is going to be presented has to be the vision of the CRA board, not the CRA staff. Even though of late we seem to come to a point where if staff doesn't do something, it looks like we're not going to go anywhere. I'm not saying that we don't have a good board, but that's the situation at this point. So waiting for the CRA board to provide a vision to formulate a major project has been our problem.
I hear you, Leslie. And from day one, I believe that has been the problem. It doesn't matter who it is. The 5 members up there, they're great. Unfortunately, to me, I've always felt that the CRA board needed to have additional members, which would have been members from the community. People who really understood, so that these things can stop. Because right now, we sit on the board as advisory. We talk all good stuff, but it doesn't mean that none of the stuff that we talk about or even suggest mean a doggone thing to the 5 folks up there. People come in, they change. Yes, we've had election last year, we've got new people, but it's still the same thing. And I think it's like that because these are the same 5 politicians who make the CRA board, and there's no one else. Because on one hand, they're making decision for the city, on the other hand, they're making for CRA, and it's intermingled, and people cannot understand which hat they have on. And it becomes blurred.
That's the animal we have now.
So where do we go?
No, we will, as I told you, we're working, the CRA staff is working diligently with city staff to identify major projects that can be adapted and taken to the board. And it's funny you mentioned election. We have 3 new folks up there, 3, okay? And a lot of them are saying, I don't know what happened before. I didn't take part of that on that decision. So it's like you're always starting over. So
And that's unfortunate.
at the same point that we're trying to go to the county, we are educating the new board we have about what the CRA is all about. And not everybody's convinced that we need to have a CRA to begin with.
Yeah. Mary?
I have a question on Dr. Shipman. The redevelopment, has it been updated? Minus the major project?
You mean the plan?
The plan.
No, the plan has not been updated
It's not complete.
since 2008. It was updated, the original plan was approved in 2005. There's a minor update in 2008, and it has not been updated, but the plan pursuant to an interlocal agreement between the city and the county terminates the CRA in 2016. And so what would happen at the termination of the CRA is that any funds left in the trust fund would be returned to the city and the county general funds in the proportion in which they were contributed, and that all future tax increments which would have been earmarked for the CRA tax increment trust fund from the city's general fund and the county's general fund would not go to the CRA, but because the CRA wouldn't exist. And that would mean that between now and 2045, which would be the end date of the CRA, the city, would be foregoing probably in excess of $200 million of county's tax increment that would have been used to implement the redevelopment projects outlined in the redevelopment plan.
I believe Mary's question is, part of your contract was to update the redevelopment plan. I think part of the question is, where are we in that part of it?
I rewrote the first part of the plan and delivered it to this advisory board and to the board, the CRA board, back at the end of last year, with the instructions that in order to go forward, the sections that follow deal with specific projects. Now I can remove Rux Park and I can remove One for One, but something's got to go in there because we need to have projects to show that we need the increased tax increment. I can do a redevelopment plan with no projects and bring it to the county, and their response will be, you don't need any TIF.
You know, we had 2 meetings ago, I think Dr. Schnidman gave us a list of things that were covered and were not covered by the CRA. So we basically have 2 lists of priorities, one through the city with a possible bond, and one through the CRA, and never the twain shall meet in some of these cases. Am I correct in this, Dr. Schnidman?
Well, it was a list that was generated by the task force
Right.
of the city staff that's focusing on the downtown. You must remember, we have, it's not just the fact that the politicians are the CRA board. That is an issue because it confuses the public. But when they sit on the dais as the CRA board, because we have 3 new members, there's a lack of true understanding that as a CRA board member, they don't represent their district. There are no districts in the CRA. And so when board members, CRA board members, talk about no money's coming to my district, it is problematic because what you cannot effectively do, given the limited tax increment, is spread projects all over the entire district. Now, there's been an effort to focus on the downtown, but still there's resistance by the CRA board members because no money's being spent in quote-unquote their district. So that's one issue they have to recognize when they sit up there with the hat of the CRA Board of Trustees. They're really representing the whole CRA. And when the decision is made on the downtown as a priority, it's made because they're all sitting and making that decision.
I know it's going to sound like a very fundamental and basic question, but have they had some type of orientation, especially the three members, to know what their roles are? I mean, if there's a confusion up there, obviously they don't understand what their roles. So
If it's the education part, I think with the help of Mr. Schneidman,
I've
if they don't know what the role of the CRA is now, plus
Well,
they have visited other CRAs. You know,
I was going to say, Mary, they've gone
Yeah.
to other CRAs, they've seen what they've done, they've asked questions.
yeah, but
no,
see,
but specifically what I mentioned, I know that they have seen what I watch CRA board meetings, and I know that the will of the CRA board, they want to see an improvement in general. But then my issue is, like you just mentioned, is you cannot have the hat that you're looking at it as my district. You need to have, well, what area is
In
that
the
we need to
city.
focus on first, and then, you know,
Well, I
and
think that's
trickle
why
down.
I think
So-
that's why
So
they,
if we're still talking my district, my understanding is that you don't understand.
well,
So,
I think that's why the focus is on downtown now as the main.
and Mike, I'm sorry, even if it's downtown, we keep talking about we need to have projects, we need to have projects. And one of the things to have projects is where you're gonna put it. And it's been a thing with property owners not willing to, what's the first thing? Have we identified city-owned properties, things that can be done? Let's look at what the city has.
We've done that.
And then let's do something, pick something, and let's say, okay, we're gonna do something here.
Yeah.
And then let's give ourselves, like, say, I've seen building put up in 6 months.
If you were here at the last meeting, Mr. Schneidman.
No, last meeting I was there. I have my documents at home.
It's okay. That was a shot. Yeah, we're close. Mr. Schneidman made a presentation where the suggestion was for us to assemble all the land we have in the downtown area, turn it to a developer, have somebody do a concept plan and come with a major project. Okay, but we don't do that as staff. Okay.
Well, one of the things I think that is 2016 seems like a long ways away. But from the standpoint of getting the plan done, it's tomorrow. Am I correct in that simplistic?
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
All right, not tomorrow, it's yesterday. So perhaps maybe one of the things we can do as an advisory board is to present a motion to the CRA that they expedite selecting the projects for the CRA so we can move on this and get this plan done, knowing the fact that the county would love to terminate our CRA. Okay, and we already know several county commissioners who have voiced that opinion openly, that they would like to terminate our CRA. So I think perhaps us as an advisory board can, Mr. Zelkowitz, would that be something that would be appropriate or within the...
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Before you ask that question, projects are nice, but what's the vision? You know, what is it that they really see happening in the downtown overall, not just one parking lot with a garage, but how do they see it fitting into an overall redevelopment is one thing that we have been unable to get anyone to articulate. And so it becomes important whether we're talking about, you know, Miami Modern or Mediterranean, and I gather in the past the board has expressed a desire to have everything done in a Mediterranean theme, and that is the official policy of the CRA. And the real question is the vision. What's the vision for 125th? You know, what's the vision for the new city hall, the new complex? And there's been concern expressed that the CRA board members themselves really don't have the ability to articulate clearly a vision and really need the assistance of staff and consultants to give them options.
Well, maybe that's what I'm saying. Perhaps we need to turn up the heat on them a little bit from a community from a citizens board of saying, listen, you guys need to get on the stick and start selecting projects.
Well, I'm not here enough to know that, so and that's also a
But
policy issue.
But I know that.
We have the, on the planning commission, there's going to be a review of the land use ordinance, I believe this August,
Correct.
if I'm not mistaken. Now, I think we all can agree that 125th Street and downtown redevelopment needs to go high, the density needs to be increased, and we have to stop little nothings, for lack of a better word, little nothings, little projects. We got to take a whole look at where this city is at. For years, this 4-story height nonsense has killed this town. Now, I go down to the Gables, I go up to Sunny Isles, all these other cities, I see beautiful high-rises, beautiful buildings up there, and that's what has to happen here. You know, and we got to expand our downtown redevelopment from 4th Avenue to the railroad tracks, and let's go high. Enough of this nonsense. Well, I don't want to go 4 stories any higher. That traffic has been coming for years, and the traffic has been driving through North Miami, going to Bell Harbor, Bay Harbor, Surfside, up the Sunny Isles. And what do we got? We got small little dumpy buildings down here that aren't doing a darn thing, aren't collecting anything. And it's time that when we look at this land use ordinance, we go for the gusto. I'll give you an example. Northwest 7th Avenue. There is no reason why from 143rd to 119th Street off of the I-95 expressway, we're not looking at 30, 40-story buildings like we look at downtown. This is absolutely preposterous. Either we do it or we don't. If we don't do it, we're going to lay in the mediocrity of the in-between, and the city is going to be a poor city helping nobody. You know, I'd rather have a wealthy city creating jobs, helping people to get into the middle class, than have a poor city dependent upon federal handouts, and we're not going any place but spinning our wheels. And you know what? Federal handouts.
And a high tax rate.
And a high tax rate. And that's what's going to happen.
Well,
and you know what? The land use ordinance, I suggest the plateau, the bottom line is, we change that first. Once we get that land use ordinance in, then we can say, hey, let's put a 30, 40-story building over here. Let's put a high-rise over here. Let's do this, not this nonsense that we're doing.
Mr. Chair,
yeah.
if I may, this may be the time, and I don't know the last time that they had it, but this may be the time that you really need to have, let's say, a week retreat where the individuals who don't understand their role and what they need to do, that will be built in there, and then the experts will be there to help people come out of that retreat with bona fide vision and ideas. Because, yeah, there's nothing wrong to say, you know what, I don't understand this, I really don't understand what I'm supposed to be doing. What's wrong with saying I don't know and I don't understand, instead of just sitting around and not moving?
Mr. Director?
I believe everybody is sort of saying the same thing, and I know that for a fact that the county has came back to the city on several times and saying, you know, we need some brick and mortar projects, we need some substantial projects in order to move the CRA. I think this mayor and council, or this board, the existing board right now, do have some vision with help from the community planning and zoning manager, Tanya Wilson. There were a DPAC that was formed as part of the whole redevelopment process for downtown. We are in the process now of meeting with each one of the board members individually. They're going to be appointing 2 members to that DPAC committee. And I believe that DPAC committee is going to be the direction in which this whole project, redevelopment project, moves. And I think based on that, we talk about parking garages downtown, raising the limits, the building height limits. We talked about making one-way, 125th Street a one-way street, rerouting the traffic from West Dixie and 125th in different traffic patterns. You got to understand it's a dynamic process. It's not only one single project that we could single-handedly come out and say. As I think Mr. Stidman said, we must have a plan. We stick to that plan. It doesn't matter who the CRA board members are. We stick to that plan, And moving forward with that plan in place, I think everybody has to buy in as they come along, because the politicians are all going to come and go. And as board members, we have nothing to show.
The projects have to-
I've been here so long, I'm hearing about the CRA, and I'm telling you, there's nothing that we could show that was done substantially. So, and I think the board has the advisory board has a good vision in putting something together with the help or the effort from staff and the consultants to move forward.
I think we all
Anything,
want to do
Mr.
that.
Chair,
Yeah.
if I may.
That's why I said, would anybody be open to a motion to say to the CRA board, we
Yeah.
need to get going.
Yeah.
Time is fleeting by.
Correct.
And I think if we as a board at least can...
Okay, I move it.
All right?
I'll second
I would
it.
say that we need to have details, like, suggesting that it is done by such and such. We can suggest that it's done all day long, but, I mean, Mr. Attorney, what would be the...
I don't think we have a date. We can't really set a
If it's
date.
going to sunset in November
2016.
2016, so then we need to see a plan by XYZ time, is what I would suggest, that...
Not only that, our time frame for presentation down at the county has already gone, from what Mr. Stidman just said. The only way we could actually do something is to get this plan in place and do an amendment.
Mr. Chairman, you have a
Yeah.
motion on the table.
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
ask
yeah.
for
Time
a
is done.
second for
We
discussion.
can
have
still
a second.
Okay.
The second was,
Mr. Despinos?
no. No, the second was
I
Rosalind for discussion.
Okay, as long as we have a second. So,
I was trying to see...
Second for discussion?
yeah, but the discussion's among the committee right now.
Right, so I was just trying to see if we could amend it and have a more specified date, is
Right.
what I was trying to...
With a schedule.
Right.
Any
We're
suggestions?
suggesting that this needs to be done.
Okay.
Before,
that's a good-
before we, this is a process, before we jump the gun. And the process has to go systematically. And the city and the CRA will be working together because, for example, what Ms. Philippe suggested, just got a
Senior
moment.
Yeah.
They're going to have charrettes to put together that plan. And for us to force them into a date, I don't know if that's the best thing to do.
Well, we're not
Because
forcing anything.
there's a
We really
process.
don't care.
There's a process that they're going to follow, and they're not going to jump and leave parts of it to meet a deadline.
Well, see, with somebody that
Even though I think it's a good idea to suggest that they step it
I
up.
think it's a very good idea.
I think it's a great idea.
The thing is, in talking to some people at the county, it's not the fact that we haven't had charrettes. In their view, we don't have an idea in the world of what we
What we
want
want
to
to
do.
do.
I mean, and the county's sitting there, you guys are like clueless. You have nothing to offer. You don't even have like a parking garage.
There you go.
Major, that is probably one of the number one things we need for downtown redevelopment. We have not even suggested to the county about a parking garage.
Right,
So what I'm saying is...
What Mr. Schnitman is saying though, it's easy to say I'm going to build a parking garage right there in front of the police station. Would that justify your CRA to 2045?
No, but at least it'll be something. But I think...
No, but they're not going to approve your
And
CRA based on that one parking garage.
No,
And
no,
we
no,
need
no.
to listen to
And I understand
what
that.
Mr. Schnitman said. It needs to be part of a vision. You have a vision to redevelop downtown. It's going to take you 40 years to do that.
Okay, Leslie, in that case, if we say that they have some idea, what is it? Why is it being kept a secret? Why not put it on the table?
They are
This is my
developing it now.
vision.
They are developing.
These are the things that I'm looking at. You are advisory, let's work together on it. And we may not be the only one, because we may have to reach out to other folks who have more abilities than we do, even though we're the advisory, who can come in and guide us. But let's do it. Let's not,
that's why I suggested the motion. That we say to the CRA board, come on, we need to get something done. We need to press on them.
And I think at the next meeting, we should reflect that. if there's a vote, we'll
We'll
Yes.
present that, yeah.
We'll present it to
We
the
did at the
board.
last minute.
You have,
And I'll be there and articulate it on behalf of the board, and everybody here is welcome to come.
Mr. Chairman, I don't want us to give the impression that the process is dead, that there is
No, no,
nothing
no, no.
happening,
No.
that we're not doing anything. That's not the case at all. Every day we have people on the city side and the CRA side who are meeting with experts, who are formulating that vision that we are all looking to get into. So I don't want anybody out there listening or to hear
No.
that it's like the CRA is dead, we don't know what to do to extend the life of the CRA.
No,
That's
okay.
not the case at all. I just want to put that on the record.
But that's not what we're saying either.
That's not what we're saying
Yeah.
either. Call the
What is the
question.
motion? We have a motion on the floor.
I think there's still a motion on the floor. Right?
Yes.
Motion and a
What
second.
is
And
the
a second.
motion?
I think the discussion is on the motion.
Yeah, the discussion, the motion is that we, as a board, convey to the CRA board
Board
itself
itself.
What?
that we need to expedite
What?
putting together a plan to be submitted to the county for the continuation of our CRA.
Okay, that's pretty general, but okay. And we have a second. Shall we vote on it?
And I call the questions.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
You opposed? Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
You have, what we're discussing is the downtown redevelopment. We have several organizations that like concentric rings,
Mhm.
not overlap. We have the CRA advisory, the planning commission, the housing authority, which we're going to get rolling, and our contractor. There are advisory group that we brought in to look at this, the downtown redevelopment board. I mean, we have all of these people, all of these different groups trying to work in the same direction, and maybe it's time that we need really to lay our foundation. And I think the first part of that foundation is the land use ordinance, unless we're just going to keep it at 10 or 12 stories for 125th Street. That's your foundation. Just give me 1 second. And I guess what I'm going to bring up tomorrow night at the planning commission
Right.
is, in fact, if we say we want to change the height, does that have to go to the voters? That's a big question. I don't remember if that has to go to the voters or it doesn't.
I don't
They're
believe
saying it
that.
does, our attorney says it doesn't. I don't recall.
City attorney.
I will find out tomorrow. We're talking about parking garages, which is essentially needed for downtown. One of the things that I brought up to the planning commission the last time, not the last time, several times over the last couple of years, is the way the parking garages look around the city. Okay, absolutely preposterous. I mean, you have a parking garage and it's not done nicely like I see on Miami Beach where they're stylish and nice and gorgeous and what have you. Or I go to Bay Harbor Island and look at our parking garages like the one behind the LA Fitness. And it's very sterile, and the lights are encroaching into the residential area. We don't want that, so we want an ordinance for parking garages, and we're to make them look nice. Okay, and it should be retroactive, going back years. All of them should come into compliance. But I think that is the basic foundation. Let's say, for example, we change our land use ordinance on 125th Street, and we go higher. You told me it was 10 stories, so we go higher. We go 20 stories. And we can start bringing in some real development money. Oh my God, 10 stories in North Miami. Do I really want that? Why not? Why not? Go down to the Gable. Why not? I go down to 79th Street, I see a beautiful apartment building around there. Why not? What are we afraid of? But this is what I'm trying to get across. That's where your tax dollars are. And when your CRA and private partnership invest in something like that, then you have big money coming back in the form of tax dollars, which would then perpetuate the CRA. But we're going to chase our tail. Okay, I said enough. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'm going to take the liberty to put CRA consultant on the. I'm going to ask him to help us formulate the motion that really should be considered by the board. We did a motion that passed.
Yeah.
But I think that motion kind of misses some of what we're really trying to accomplish.
So what you're saying is
So-
we have a skeleton and you want him to flesh it out?
Right, right.
Well, I think that the
I think the first thing actually is to make sure contractually, he's on board.
No. Tonight he can help us formulate that. Him being on board is something that we discussed, and in due time he will be on board. But I'm just asking at this point to help us formulate a motion that will put some meat on the motion that we just passed.
Okay.
The presentation that Steve Zelkowitz made in February of this year to the CRA board outlined in detail the process that would be needed in order to amend the plan and the timeline. And I think in order for a motion to really have any kind of influence attached to the motion, really should be an informational calendar that shows the timeline between now and November 1st of 2016 and what needs to be done when, because when you go to the county, there's 2 committees to go through, and then you've got to go through the whole commission. But before that, it has to go to the city council, has to go to the CRA board, has to come to you. And the reality of it is, we do not know the timeline for the city's consultants and whether they're actually preparing the specific details that would be needed for capital projects or the dollar amount or what the vision is. We don't know the timeline for DPAC, and if you look at the composition of who's on DPAC, whether they're actually capable of doing what it is that is going to be required of the plan. So I think the condition preceding to actually the motion is the calendar that says we're not pushing, this is the reality. And in order for the CRA to be extended, we need to have county commission action prior to the sunset date, and moving backwards, these are the critical dates that we need to get to the CRA board, we need to get to the city council, we need to get to the first county committee, the second county committee, and then to the council. Now, Steve had outlined that in his February presentation as a process, but not with calendar dates. And so a calendar that says this is what the statute requires, chapter 163-300, this is what the county and the city's interlocal agreement requires, and this is what the county's process for approval of things in relation to the CRA require. Then you can say, without trying to force anything, we make a motion that you clearly look at this calendar and help us meet these dates in order for us to move forward to extend the life of the CRA.
Hold on a second. Where's the maker of the motion?
Yeah, I was the chief.
That's
No?
I think our
No,
motion
it was,
passed already, right?
That motion passed, so
That
this is
motion
a new
passed.
motion.
But we
you need
could
to
get
make.
it
Another
amended.
motion. We can
Another
make
motion or
motion.
amend that one?
Mr. Attorney?
Now we've lost our quorum now.
Yeah, 1, 2,
I think you have 6,
1,
no?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Did he just leave or did he?
Yeah.
He said he had to go?
So you can make a motion.
Yes. No motion.
Can we vote via email?
No.
No, but I mean, if
We have
there's a
6.
consensus among the committee that this is what you want to do, I mean, I think we could get some direction to the attorney and to staff, and
Right, to attach that as an
it doesn't
amendment.
Yes.
actually need to be a motion.
Okay, can everybody agree that that's what we want to do, is attach
Yes.
that?
Yes, that's what I was trying to articulate.
Okay, all right. Okay, so does everybody agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So moved, so done.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
I feel better.
Well, I feel better too.
Good.
Blessed and sealed. Okay.
Let me see if I can jump some light on to it when I ask me. I've been waving my hand.
Well, wait a second, I'm not done yet. I'm surprised. Okay.
No,
At the
I'm
same
trying
time.
to get right behind him because
Oh,
it's
okay,
really
well,
important.
Can you come up then and introduce yourself? And, come on,
It's-
Jacques.
it's
You
okay.
have to be on the record.
Come on, you need
Yes,
to be on the record.
I think Mary would.
Yeah, just before the councilman goes, is there another item that you're going to vote on?
No. Okay, no, we're
Okay.
done. Are you leaving too? Will you call me? All right, would you please name and address and et cetera?
Jacques Despinos, 195 Northeast 131 Street.
Okay.
Anything else? My mother name, father name? Listen, This is after, that's the joke. Let's make it a serious point now.
Okay.
If we want to keep the CRA, it's about time you guys show the county what you want, the vision, and what are you doing. Because the money was given to us, I mean, not Miami, for a reason. So far, there's not much we can show. That's why some of them want to remove themselves. They give us 95 cents on the dollar, but they get nothing for it. Man, you're talking about the county. If you have members of the CRA who are not too pleased with the CRA, how are you going to convince the county when your own house is not in order? That's what I have to say. I believe we can sit down and look at things and let's be more for real. Not only say, well, I'm going to build a parking lot, but you can show determination. This is the plan. This is the vision. Otherwise, it's going to be a goodbye. Because you have to convince not only those 3 or 4, but you have to convince the whole county, 13 members, because this CRA is not too popular downtown.
Oh, we know that. Well, I think the mayor certainly has a vision for downtown. The other council people, I think, have a vision, and I think everybody's on board with downtown. So,
Let me correct something. I cannot let things like that remain on the record. Downtown, the county had some issues with this CRA in the past, but the county has no problem with this particular CRA at this point. The problem they had with the last CRA is they were spending money on things that weren't authorized for CRAs to spend money on.
That's right.
And since I and Mr. The last executive director took over the CRA, we had to approve 2 budgets, prior budgets that weren't being approved, and in the last budget cycle, we had no problem getting our budget approved with no question. So we don't have any problem with downtown. The problem we have right now is identifying a major project to extend the life of the CRA. There is one person on the county commission who doesn't like CRAs no matter where they are. You have that, and that's the person's prerogative. However, there is no issue with North Miami CRA downtown. We're clean. Okay, I want that clean. Okay.
May I?
yeah.
And this is just example, and I hear what you're saying. We've got to stop the fighting between us two. And I hear what the councilman is saying, because it is a known fact there are some council members who don't want the CRA.
One person.
Exactly.
One person.
But it's still one.
One person.
That's what I'm saying. It's still one. It's still part of the individuals who make the decisions. It's just
it's
like
the
all these
majority
people we're
vote.
talking about, and that's offshoot. All these people talking about this guy who said all these racist remarks. And I'm like, that's just one idiot who doesn't care about what it's, but what about all these others in position who are hiding how they feel, and they feel the same way? We gotta be real open and honest, okay? My thing is, I've seen and I've read about so many other CRAs right here. I'm not even talking going out of Florida.
That's right.
But right here in Florida, why can't we?
Success
and some
stories.
of them are it's smaller cities than we
Success
are.
stories.
Very successful. Why can't we do the
Well,
same?
I think that's what we're trying, that's what we're
Well,
trying
I think
to
that's the
do.
direction that everybody is looking at right
That's
now.
what we're trying to do.
Getting a vision, getting a list of brick and mortar projects,
Yeah.
and not one project, as Frank, getting a list of projects in order of priority. Parking garages are our #1 problem downtown. Let's work at that. Redevelopment from 40 feet, maybe to 100 or 60 feet, so we could encourage high rises or higher densities along the major commercial corridors. Those are things that we have to put, an outline. And correct me if I'm wrong, Frank. I think you're looking for a list of projects
Right.
rather than just one project.
Yeah, and see, the thing is, there's more than one person downtown that's not happy with us, but that's not the point. How we overcome that is
Right.
putting together a solid plan, moving forward, and
Right.
that's what we got to do.
Right.
And
But your
that's
point
how
came
we
full
change-
circle. Right here, it just came full
Yeah.
circle.
Yeah.
With one person not buying into what the rest of the board is doing. So, yeah, exactly. So unless we have a common front and a common goal, a vision, then we can't move this board, we can't move these projects forward. We can't.
What else? Okay. All right, that being said, is there any old business to come before us?
Mr. Chair, I just want to remind you that we have 3 minutes to approve. The last 3 times we met, we haven't been able to approve the minutes for lack of a quorum. So as soon as we have a quorum next time, let's approve those. So that
Because that's what I was about to
before
say,
the
we can't
people
approve
leave, we can get the business
All right,
done.
is there any new business discussion? Okay, we don't have a quorum, but let's, consensus?
Well, may I just say this? It's now 7:30. And most meetings, I would say an hour and a half. I think if we're on the board, we should commit to that 1 hour, an hour and a half. Otherwise, you know, we'll never get anything
The
done.
meetings are usually that length.
No, that's what I'm saying.
They're
So,
never
but
longer.
if folks are
They're never
leaving,
long.
we're never
All
going
right,
to get
do we
anything
have a
done.
consensus to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
yes.
Thank you all, and
Thank
thanks
you,
kids
Mr.
for
Chair.
coming.